Hello, I'm Regina Botras, and this is Backstage, where we talk with the who's who on stage, in dance, comedy and performing arts, speaking with the leading theatre makers of our times and how they came to the stage and what drives them and inspires them. I am joined by Jessica Arthur. She is a director and dramaturg, and she is directing Koreaboo, which is written by Michelle Lim Davidson and played by her as well on the stage at Griffin Theatre Company, although they are in the home of Downstairs Belvoir for this production. I think they're coming back soon, Griffin, let's hope. Their construction and their renovations are underway. Jessica is, as I said, a director and dramaturg. You might have seen her direct things like the Martin Lysicrates Prize for Griffin. She's director for Belvoir Street Theatre, Lose to Win and The Wolves, King's Cross Theatre, La Mama, Old Fitz Theatre, Red Line Productions, Sydney Theatre Company with a Dictionary of Lost Words, Chalkface, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, I'm Home, I'm Darling, Banging Denmark, and so many more. I'm stumbling over my words. There's so many productions that she has taken to the stage. Please welcome Jessica Arthur.
Thanks for having me. Lots of weird titles too, though, to say back to back. So it's very understandable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, lots of mouthfuls and rearranging of title words and things like that. Before we get into Koreaboo, how did you come to be involved in the theatre in the first place? Did you come at it as an actor, a child actor, or where was your first sort of introduction to the theatre, I suppose?
It's a weird one because it just happened, and I do just feel like a lot of it was from laughing with my brothers quite a lot as kids. Like it was a lot of play and laughing and ridiculous things like that. And then through high school, I really enjoyed drama, but never saw it as a career ever, like ever. And then once I'd finished, I was very practical about things, always relying on retail to just make money, like lots of retail and travel, because I just was like, well, that's what I'll do at this point. And this was very long before COVID, so I was very lucky. And then I did a Bachelor of Performing Arts at Monash, really to kind of kill time to figure out what I wanted to actually do. And the Bachelor was great because it was like a real mix of all theatre craft, lots of dramaturgy as well, but also like lighting, writing, acting. So it was good because I got a real deep kind of understanding of all the aspects, but always managed, we did a lot of devising too, but I always managed to kind of step back. I'd do those things, but then I'd always step back and be helping everyone with trying to get their performance to the place they wanted it, or I'd be editing something, and things like that. So eventually I did a semester abroad, and the same thing, it helped me realize that I really liked like being the outside eye. And then I kind of was like, well, just do it, Jess, just do it. So I then did a master's in directing, and then still didn't think it was a feasible career, but it is now, which is surprising. I said yes to every opportunity, and then, here I am.
And it has changed a lot, especially for women over the last 15 years. I think we were talking about that when I went along on Sunday evening to see it, that the stage is for women these days so much more than it has been, I think, back then. But you said you did a semester abroad. Did you mean studying?
Yeah, I went to Leeds in the north of England because I love a lot of music from Manchester in the 80s. So I got the closest place I could get was Leeds. And it was incredible because our lecturers were really, once again, really into dramaturgy and devised theatre. And it just allowed, I did also a first year class, like even though I was a third year student, I could take this first year class in design and scenography, which I really loved because it gave me this like deep insight into the basics of stage design with these incredible lecturers. And I think a big part, I did a lot of assisting when I started out too. A big part of me developing my practice is like getting, like deeply understanding what everybody does. I've always been very curious like that. So I'm like, how do you do your job? Why did you do that in QLab? Like, how do you make that thing? So that was a huge part of it. But I really love working with designers and creatives as well. Like, so that was really, really useful, that it's first year scenography class.
Yeah. And I think, as a director, you kind of have to see that whole world to some extent. But do you therefore, those skills, are they working in, I guess that they help you with communicating your ideas across to all the different people involved in theatre, right?
Yeah, and theatre's weird because like you're all kind of put into these really extreme modes of working. Like you have to you pick, there's a piece, and whether it's a new piece or a kind of pre-existing piece, you have to like figure out how to get it done. And you and the creative team take it on first, and you make sense of it, and you try to figure out the concept. And then that's months before you've even got it in the rehearsal room. And then once you're in the rehearsal room, the actors come into that process, and you have to communicate all that again and make the world so specific and detailed for them so that they can kind of then take that and run with it. So everything is quite pressured, and everything is very small kind of time, this small time limit. So it is useful to kind of understand what I'm asking of this composer or sound designer right now, is that a huge ask? Not is it a huge ask, but is it possible? Is it even achievable? So you really have to, knowing what everybody does, even actors, there's some actors I've worked with, and Michelle in this one's very like that too, where you're like, I don't know if you can get here at this point, in week 1 or 2, but we can talk about technically where we want you to land or where they want to land. So you've got to suspend your disbelief in the process too, because you're never going to see everything immediately. So that it helps with all those skills.
What do you mean by land? What kind of landing there? Emotionally?
Sometimes emotionally or technically. Sometimes it's a scene that's really, the dialogue's very overlappy and really rhythmic and really fast. And it's just that can be frustrating because you're watching it or actors are trying to do it. And you're like, yeah, of course you're not going to hit the specificity of that because we haven't developed all the other layers of your character, or the lines aren't in your head yet, or you actually don't know what your character is doing until we've touched every part of the play, until we've passed through it once and then come back. Sometimes you're not going to have those answers until you flow it together. So you need to acknowledge that, I think, in the process, which is hard to do. You're like, yes, we could flog this until we're all losing our minds, but are we better off actually acknowledging it, putting a pin in it, and trusting that when we come back, or we've kind of laid the pavement, a bit further forward, we can come back and know what we're doing.
Trust, that sounds like the biggest part of it, is yes, knowing that will happen all in good time. Now, this must be a different kind of process, though, with this. Michelle, it's her debut writing. She's an actor, obviously, and performed and has those sort of skills. So when in the process did you come on board with this particular play?
Yeah, so Michelle was developing this with Griffin as part of the Griffin studio program. So it was her and the dramaturg, Julian Lanark. So the two of them were together kind of getting it out. So once she'd gotten the whole play out, they then brought me on as kind of an outside eye, and to be if you were to, it was kind of even to have a director's eye in it, to kind of dream what it would be if it was then in production. So I came on pretty early, once they'd mapped it out and written the first draft, which was really useful. And I think the way Griffin sets up developing new work is really great. They're very good at being how many readings do you need? When is it useful for the writer to have? They're very responsive to the writer's process because it's always different to each writer. So then I was there from that, and it wasn't programmed yet. It was in discussions, and then it got officially locked in, and we could kind of start dreaming up creative teams and things like that. So yeah, I was on pretty early, for a piece, which was great.
Okay. Well, we should talk about the play before we break that down a little bit, because I want to ask you in that kind of divisive world. But let's talk about the play. Koreaboo, do you want to describe what that word means as an introduction?
Yeah, Koreaboo is a term for someone who usually isn't necessarily from Korea, but it's someone who's very obsessed with Korean culture. Deeply obsessed. And I think a lot of people who are very obsessed with K-pop would probably identify as Koreaboos, but doesn't have to just be K-pop. It can be many cinema, food, but very deeply invested. So that's what it means. But the play actually is about this woman, Hannah, who's from Sydney, and she's kind of in her 30s, and she, the year before, had been reunited with her birth mother, but she grew up in Australia. So she was born in Korea, sent to Australia. So this is a year after meeting her for the first time in adulthood. She's come back, and in her mind, in Hannah's mind, she's turned up at her mother's store. She owns a little convenience mart. And in her mind, this is a moment for them to kind of get to know each other. But in Oma, her mum's mind, it's actually Hannah's just coming to holiday. She's probably going to dump her stuff and then maybe go off and do touristy stuff. But for her, they're not getting to know each other because that's not a great idea. So you kind of immediately see these two people who don't really know each other trying to relate to each other and having the wrong idea. And then there's this beautiful moment where they kind of accidentally find a commonality, which is K-pop. And then it all unfurls from there. And basically, without giving too much away, they get quite invested in a K-pop reality television show.
It's so great. They break out in K-pop singing language, and I mean singing lyrics to K-pop to communicate, which is so much fun. How did you work in the creation of this, like taking those skills that you talked about in terms of devising and working kind of in the world?
I mean, I always take the playwright's lead, like you have to, and that was one of the big things at the top, is just understanding what Michelle's intention is in this. And of course, a big part of it is actually to communicate, especially to an adoptee audience, but you know, it's quite universal beyond the adoptee audience, which I'm sure you felt, but it's really to kind of show a version of the adoptee experience which is beyond reunion, what happens then, because a lot of the stories are about that magic moment when, you know, if you're lucky, you find your family and meet. But this is about after, where Michelle's like, it's actually not that straightforward. And I think one of the biggest things that I took from just hearing her talk about it is you're probably never actually going to get all the answers you want. And even if you get the answers, there's only going to be more questions. Like there's something very realistic but generous, I think, about what Michelle's putting forward. So I've always kind of started from that place. And the other kind of beautiful part of what Michelle's pulled out of it is this really equal representation of both characters within it. I think that's something quite unique about it, is without you realizing, you get such a deep perspective into the choices, or the lack of choices, that Oma had, and why she had to give up this child. You know, so two-handers are really hard. So I think that's the main thing, was kind of setting them both off on their way. Heather Jung, who's the actor who plays the mum, she's a chef in real life. So whenever she's performed or acted, she's usually performed a version of herself, or she's usually doing some sort of cooking demonstration. So she's not new to performing in front of an audience, but playing a character and also not acknowledging the audience is very new to her. So a lot of it was about really helping them both deeply understand the humanity of these people. So as you know, people go, and you saw there's so many props. So I think I would just really try, the way I kind of structured it and held it was that we set up the deep truth of this world, the bubble of this convenience store. We kind of put all the toys in, which is really all the props, and kind of said, how do these two people relate to this space and each other and all the things within it? So we kind of set that up as a push and pull, and that was like a big open exploration that helped guide us.
It really did. I mean, speak to that. I mean, I love the set, by the way. The Mart is so familiar and foreign at the same time. We've sort of all at some point walked into one of those really full to the brim Marts with just everything. Like, you know, in this case, it's got wallpaper and drinks and all kinds of things, diverse tangential things that she sells as a consequence of our times. But that real moment of there's this, you know, Michelle, or her character Hannah, is looking for someone that looks like her and to feel that belonging. And there is a familiarity, but at the same time, the stranger, like where is that? How do they communicate, and how do they find, I guess, their common ground? And I am someone who didn't meet my father until I was in my 20s, so it really resonated for me that, like, this person that you're going, this is my blood, but how do I feel? Like, it's a strange, weird world. You talked about the relationship of space. Did you play with that? Because it wasn't, I mean, I love the space, the use of it, but did you make a decision to have, Uma on the other side of the counter, or what kind of spatial decisions in relationship to the play?
It's funny because downstairs Belvoir is like really unique, like in how close you are, but also the fact that it wraps right around the audience is like the second, third, and fourth walls. You know, they really are. So it is challenging because. And especially if you had 3 people, it might be a little bit easier, or 1 person, but 2 people, you have to be super strategic. So I kind of really tried to take the actors' leads, and like Heather's really has great instincts where she'd be like, I don't feel like I need to be in my safe place. Like I need to be busy. Like I can't look at her right now for this reason. So we always kind of followed those instincts, but then sometimes I'd have to strategically get them in different positions so that we could see whoever you need to see at whatever point. But also just practically just keep it dynamic as well, because it is such a, in a way, a fixed space, and there's some little surprises, as you saw, that do shift it. But we did want to commit to the fact that this is her bubble and this is her world, and that she initially walks through it with such ease and control. And then there's this, person who is her daughter, who she doesn't know, has come in, and you'll see in the first scene, Hannah kind of takes up all this space and Omma's just kind of pushed to corners, pushed to corners or hiding behind things. So yeah, we really kind of mapped that and then tried to see how that pattern kind of unlocks as the play goes.
It is so much fun and energetic and just, I mean, they were both such terrific actors to watch and to feel through this story. Did you, with the process, did you get to a point and then you went, let's stick there, or are you still adapting it and changing it as you go?
There's some moments towards the end that are really hard, not hard to land, but they offer so many specific and important answers that you want to make sure everything is given the time and space it needs, but at the same time it needs to be active and driving towards the end of the play. So I think that's where even leading up to opening night, we were still making such detailed, intricate changes to that because I don't want to go into it too deeply, but I know that you know what I'm saying, because the last few scenes, they do offer up a lot of answers. And I think one of my favorite things about Michelle's decision that she made when she wrote this play, and a lot of people have reflected this back at me, is that there isn't a resolution. And of course there's ends and answers, but it allows you to leave and be like, there can't be an end to that, because it's only the beginning of so many things, whether it comes to how they choose to relate to themselves, how they choose to relate to each other, or even what choices they make beyond this. So in a way, the scenes before, where there's a lot of choreography and movement and, just practically moving things around, they're a bit more easy to lock off. But at the end, you want to let everything kind of have the space and delicacy it needs while also technically driving. So it's it's really hard. It's hard, but ultimately they are doing a consistent show every night, but it's quite an emotional audience. Audiences can be quite emotionally responsive to that, and you can feel that as well. And I think the lovely thing that Michelle's done at the end is she makes sure that you're okay on the way out, in the way that she wraps it up. It's not left in a place where you're kind of untethered. Yeah. You're back, you're back your feet are on the floor again, and you kind of know you can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I wondered, I mean, this is loosely based on her story. There was a different word she used to describe that, but I wondered, is the mother similar to her? Did in the casting of Heather, or the writing? I mean, I wonder, was there a search for that, or where the line of reality and drama or theatre comes into play?
Michelle was really specific with, trying to really, because there's this incredible group called Cayenne, who's Korean. Is it Korean Adoptees in Australia network, and they've been supporting this show as well, whether it be audience development and things like that, but also just supporting Michelle. And she's kind of friends with a lot of adoptees, and I think the adoptee experience is so diverse. That's the thing, that even the Korean adoptee experience is so diverse, and I've been lucky enough to be kind of let in on that. But Michelle, there's just very subtle elements that are related to her, but ultimately it's this really specific kind of mashup of an experience that can specifically be related to by the adoptees. Even you mentioned before, the moment where she says, I've never seen anyone who looked like me. She breaks that down and talks about the features in someone else's face and seeing your own features reflected back. So instead of making it about directly writing her experience, she's written what most adoptees, and she doesn't want to represent all, and she says that, but it's actually about letting that community feel seen, and so, that's been responded to quite well. So there was no point in kind of digging into the specifics of, finding those connections. It was more about kind of the output and what it does for adoptees. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And it did. It was very moving at one point, and I felt that kind of landing, and yeah, it's okay to leave now. But
from Heather too, she was born in Seoul, and she grew up in Australia, but she does a lot of work still in Korea. So she brought a lot of that character to life. Like, she's like, I think this woman would respond like this in this moment, or, I think this woman would say this instead of this right now, So Heather was a massive part of bringing Oma to life as like just a Korean woman who owns a mart and hasn't had much choice in life as well.
Yeah. With the gnomes, I hope it's okay to say that, were they from the mother? Are they like, it's such a quirky Australian thing? Are they Australian?
Michelle was walking past a crossing in Seoul, this big crossing, and just saw like this store that was like, the window was just completely full of gnomes. And it just stayed in her mind. Like, she's like, that's so weird. And then the next time she was in Korea, she happened to accidentally walk past it again. And it was just an idea and an image that stayed with her. And then it was more a dramaturgical device in a way, because it actually allows you to understand that Oma doesn't really have many friends. And it allowed kind of Hannah and Oma to kind of talk a little bit about the idea of, kind of having a friend or having someone that either gets taken away or is with you all the time or is connected to you or not. So it also was like a dramaturgical device as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, look, Jessica Arthur, it is just terrific. I loved it. It's so much fun and moving in that deeper story of belonging. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
That was Jessica Arthur, and Koreaboo is on at Downstairs Belvoir, but a Griffin Theatre Company production. Really recommend getting along to see that on until the 20th of July.